And we are back, brothers and sisters, and we are super excited to be back here again with you, sharing our enthusiasm for sharing discernment and things of whatever nature. I don't know what are we sharing here today, Glenn? What's up?
Big man, very good yourself.
Very good, very good.
Okay, the G man and the big fella, what we're sharing is the truth. What we say is what a lot of people think, but they're afraid to say it. Oh, we don't have those fears. We're coming out to challenge the mainstream media, to give people a different perspective of things, so they're able to discern and then learn the truth of what's really going on. And I'm a little on fire today, Alex. There's a few things that I've been seeing lately. You know, we have this guy, this Dalai Lama. Can you bring this video up for the people to see this bird here in real time?
Yeah, let's do this. Oh, there's no, okay. I don't think there's any sound on the video, but you can still see it. Glenn, what is that?
That's sickness. There's Dalai Lama wanting to give a little boy a kiss, you know, and he asked the little boy to suck on his tongue. What is that? What, like, then he apologizes because there was backlash, you think. And like he apologized for getting caught. Like what would even possess you to do something like that?
He said it was playful teasing. That's an official statement.
I'd love to get him in the room for 5 minutes. I'll give him a little bit of playful teasing too.
But hold on. How isn't he supposed to be this holiest of the holy?
Yeah, he's supposed to be some Eastern monk mode. He has a huge following. You know, there's a problem. All followers, they follow whatever he says, this and that. So then it ends up going to their head. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that is one corrupted individual to ask a little child, a little boy, come suck on my tongue. Now, big man, if you were the kid's father and you were there, of course we wouldn't be there because we're not followers.
Right on the spot. Like, I don't know. Would I go to jail for something like this?
I tell you, I don't think the man would have a tongue left after that. I'd rip it right out. I say, you sick. Okay, that's it.
This is really disturbing to me. I think we live in a time now where things become self-evident. Things just coming out. You no longer can hide. The truth cannot be hidden in the shadows.
Roman Catholic Church, Alex. Bring it up, big man. The Roman Catholic Church.
Well, Baltimore Catholic Church covered up a sexual abuse of more than 600 kids over 6 decades.
That's 600 people who've come forward to say something about this. Now, we know that there's a lot more, and that's just in Baltimore, Maryland. It was the same thing that happened in Boston, Massachusetts. We have it all over the place in Canada with the indigenous children, and you know, New York, it was in New York. It's everywhere. So the people who go to this organization, you know, every Sunday to feel good about themselves, they should really understand where a lot of this money is going. Like, you have to understand the gist of this organization. Do you really want to follow something like that?
Well, here's a little bit of dogmatic approach here. You know, the thing about Catholic Church, they have a whole thing that they make you rely on the church itself to have a relationship with God, right? So I'm not here to do the church doctrine or have a catechism discussion, you know, with our listeners, although they can comment on that. Although if, you know, I'm sure there are Catholic friends that are listening to us, and I'm here not throwing stones at your Christian faith and everything else.
Yeah, I'm a Catholic too, by the way. I'm a Roman Catholic.
How dare you?
No, that's what it was given to me. Believe me, I didn't take it.
Well, and that's another thing, right? So what happens, like with the church, like for example, Catholic Church or Eastern Orthodox, it kind of goes against the principle of you actually choosing Christ as your Savior. That's being chosen for you. You're not actually conscious at the time of being baptized, right? You baptized at a really young age, sort of like you get in your membership by default, right? But you're not actually having a chance or choice to develop a relationship with God and accept Jesus Christ as your Savior. And the only way to God is through Jesus. The only way you can do it if you consciously choose that. Now, with Catholic Church, they get those memberships, with as soon as you are able to do it, like, I think before 1 year old, the 1 year old kids get baptized, etc. And then you become a cult follower. Why do I use that word? Because in my experience, and no, just by the way, my Catholic experience was probably the best or one of the best experiences in my life. I went to Catholic school, I went to Catholic university, and maybe it's my experience, maybe, this is my experience alone, but was absolutely a welcoming and kind experience. I've been treated really well. I've learned a lot of things. I felt loved. I felt taken care of. However, what I've learned is that I needed the Catholic priest or church to rely on to have a relationship with God. And one of the things that they do, Glenn, the whole Saint Mary thing?
Bring it up.
So the Saint Mary is, the Holy Mother Mary, right? Mother of Jesus. Apparently, Jesus is so rough on us, and it's so scary that, for us to ask forgiveness from Jesus himself, instead we got to pray to his intermediary, his mother, because she's so nice. She can go whisper in Jesus' ear, you can forgive those people, they're so bad, but, be nice to them, right? That's the whole concept of putting a middleman between you and Christ, between you and God. And that's how the Catholic Church fits in. Like, you need them to get to heaven. You need them not to go to hell, right? So you create a dependency. So it's like the same thing we observe in dependency on the state, right? You need the state to make medical decisions for you. You need the state to make social decisions for you, educational decisions for you, economical decisions for you, the way of living. You're going to live in a 15-minute city. You're going to pay carbon tax. You're going to become a vegan or eat bugs. You're going to do all those things. So, and Catholic Church was part of the government for a long time, wasn't it? They made some really important government decisions for ages.
Yeah, well, now we seem to be separating government and the church, which is a good thing. But even the top guy himself, the Pope, he came out saying that homosexuality is not a sin, but sex outside of marriage is a sin. What would homosexual sex with a young boy as a priest, where would that fit in?
Well, that's pedophilia. It's not just homosexual sex. But interesting point you bring up. Sex outside of marriage is a sin. According to a Bible, marriage is the union between man and a woman. So any kind of homosexual sex would be outside of marriage. Right? So by definition, it would fall into sin. So he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe God is like, oh, you can't be homosexual, you're going to hell. It's your personal choice. If you're making this choice, this is what you do. We're not here to condemn you. We are not, me nor Glenn nor any of our brothers and sisters can do that. This is not something this is not in our power to do, nor our choice, nor our will. We love and accept all of our brothers and sisters, no matter what life choices you make. And that's the beautiful part about this show. We're not here to divide us from, well, we're better than you or we're different. No, that's why I address you when I say, good day, brothers and sisters, because no matter where you're from, no matter what you do, no matter where you are right now in your life, you are my brother and you are my sister. Glenn, isn't it true that goes the same for you as well, right?
Yeah, sure. I have, homosexual people in my family, too. Well, we've been to the gym. There's some people they're the great people. They're still our brothers. I tell this to people. If I saw 3 guys beating up a gay man just because he was gay, I'm jumping in there. I say, well, what are you doing? Just because, so what, he's gay? If he's not hurting anybody, he's not a bad person. What we don't like is pedophiles. That's people preying on young children who can't defend themselves. These are bullies, and the bullies have to be bullied.
They're not just bullies; they're predators. Anything
Sick.
sick. Well, let's get to the sick story. Well, this actually, let's get off the sick stories. Let's get to something everyday stuff that concerns all of us or doesn't. I don't know. There's a DOG story about Pentagon leaks that apparently were leaked um, in January, believe it or not, on Discord. And only now they came to light. And they are documents that were revealing some of the sensitive information about the Washington and Ukraine military dealings. And right now, it's for some reason, right now, it's so important. And I think maybe it's already a cop out because for some reason, the Ukraine counteroffensive, if you didn't hear about the proposal, expected Ukraine counteroffensive, you're living under the rock, which is kind of weird. How's it a military strategy? It's like, okay, we're about to counteroffense. You know, we're massing up the military right now, and we're gonna isn't it defeats the whole purpose of like the whole art of war, you know, having surprise attacks and all. And I don't know how that works nowadays anymore. Like, you know, we're getting ready for offensive, so get ready for counter defensive. I guess that's what the story's about. And maybe the leaked documents is the way for the West saying, well, the counteroffensive failed because there were some documents that were leaked. I don't know. It seems fishy to me. And Glenn, I know you have an opinion on this story. What's up?
Well, you see, anything with the DOJ, the Department of Justice, is starting to look like it's injustice. Instead of the Department of Justice looking into a criminal investigation, I think the not the government, but somebody appointed by the people, not government. That's like the fox guarding the hen house. By the people should do a criminal investigation on the DOJ. Let's expose them and how they put out things to the mainstream media to corrupt your perception of reality. Yet when something leaks outside of their control, that's called a leak. It goes to like other sources of media where they're not under control. Oh, that's a bad thing.
Oh, that's what Kirby said about what this is the Kirby's comment, you know, the DOJ's comment on what you just said.
Side lips.
Again, without confirming the validity of the documents, this is information that has no business in the public domain. It has no business, if you don't mind me saying, on the pages of front pages of newspapers or on television. It is not intended for public consumption, and it should not be out there.
Well,
watching him, I need a shot of Jack Daniels. I got to tell you, this guy can lie with the best of them.
Is that how free press works, by the way?
What's so free about it?
Well, you can use it for many different things, right? Like if it used to be, right, when at least when it came in the form of the newspaper, you can use it for different purposes. Like you can use it as a tablecloth, you can use it for painting, you can use it for papier mâché, you know, make arts and crafts out of it. You can use it as a toilet paper when the times are rough. You can use it, I don't know, window coverings. You can use it as napkins. You can use it as whatever. There was many uses. What is the purpose of the media? Like, you can't. There's no positive thing in things like Washington Post and New York Post except propaganda. And it's a good segue to the next story because, well, actually, let's not segue to that story just yet. But
that picture on? Is it on so that people can see it?
Yes, it's on right now. Yeah.
Look at our prime minister where he's sitting.
He's always sits like that, doesn't it?
I don't know, but like what? He's being scolded.
Here, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. He sits to me. Hold on. This is.
Lordy, you got to step in. You got to help us.
Only certain people are allowed.
Doesn't it look like Trudeau?
But who's allowing? That's the real question.
Who is?
You know?
I don't. Maybe there isn't.
The bloke on the left, the bloke in pink, it's the guy who's the new face of Nike.
Nike sports bras for women?
And maybe Bud Light or whatever. I don't know what they have. But yeah, new Nike sports, yeah.
Transcend what their gender is supposed to be.
Yeah, those are two girls.
And that to
This
me
is the
something I
girls
draw strength
transcending girl
from.
power.
And and excitement.
Yeah,
Okay, big guy getting a sore stomach. What's next? What do we have going up there next? Okay, sorry, but that's enough of you.
Okay, let's go back to
That's
us.
a bit of a freak show, no? Listen, people, that's what's really going on. But you're just getting it in little bits and pieces. But this is what's really going on, okay? Now, overwhelming, you're going to be a little bit shocked. Now, even those two individuals, they're still like our brothers on the planet or whatever, our sisters or in-betweens, whatever they think they are. Okay. But, let's keep them away from indoctrinating tomorrow's people, like the young children and stuff.
It's interesting though. How to you don't just wake up and. By the way, any kind of civilization that went through decline, one of the last stages of decline was sexual degradation, right? And I think that's because the fun times made weak people in general. We actually create problems, and I think you often mention that wait, if the stuff hits the fan, right? It really gonna make people forget about stuff like this because they're gonna worry about how they're going to feed the families, how they're going to, what if the bombs are going to start dropping not in Ukraine, but in Canada, and no longer sexual revolution is valid. We actually up in the real revolution. But sexual revolution didn't start with those blocks. This is sort of built up to that. But we'll watch this really quick. This is the bookstore in San Francisco airport.
Airport bookstore. Let's check out the children's section. Okay, we're here at Kids Nonfiction, the Anti-Racist Kid. And to do your work at home, the Anti-Racist Kids Workbook. We've got This Book is Gay, Stacey Abrams, When We Say Black Lives Matter, How to Be a Young Anti-Racist, A Justice for All, and maybe a volume 2 on her, I guess. Okay, we have Sex is a Funny Word. Touching yourself is one way to learn about yourself.
I'm touching my head right now because I've had enough.
Well, and this is the Western values that we're protecting in Ukraine. Speaking of Ukraine, Trudeau announces new military aid bilateral agreements during Ukraine PMs.
Yeah, the PM is visiting Canada today, and this just came out. He's coming over for a bigger donation. More money. Let's send it over. Meanwhile, we have homeless people and homeless encampments everywhere in Canada.
Well, but let's even before we get there, let's segue into the cost to run the federal government is up $151 billion a year on Trudeau's watch. Right? So
Government.
Who are we helping here?
Government has gotten too big. Okay? So the public sector is getting paid off the taxpayers from the private sector. And the taxes that keep going up. They find a way to tax the air that you breathe now, called the carbon tax. And this is being used up very quickly for big government, which is not even enough to cover all the expenses. So they have to go to the central bank and borrow money from the central bank, which is privately owned. And they create more of these fiat Canadian dollar notes, which is creating inflation for people.
But yet we find money to send to fuel the war somewhere so far away to protect our Western democracy, our Western values that we just showed you. The Western values is like, oh, kids, it's okay. Sex is a fun word. Oh, kids, it's okay. Let's be all anti-racist. By the way, it's like, what were you saying before? If you want somebody to think about something, ask them not to think about it. I mean, opposite, right?
That's right. But focus on what you want. Don't focus on what you don't want. Because if you focus on what you're not supposed to do, you're going to get more of what you're not supposed to do.
And so if you tell somebody, stop being racist or become anti-racist, you actually point out the division, right?
You should be more open, be more acceptable to people. So you focus on being open and acceptable. That'll create your a part of your character, and everybody will get along that way.
Well, how we do this in the show? I mean, I'm gonna beat that drum to death. You all are brothers and sisters, no matter what color, ethnicity, age, religion, whatever else. We all live on the same earth. We drink the same water. We breathe the same air. We want the same thing. You want peace. I want peace. You want roof over your head. I want roof. I want stability. You want stability. You don't want anybody in your business. I don't want anybody in my business either.
True, big man. But amongst us, there are some people who need a little bit of psychological work, okay? Because they're making some funny choices.
Well, we all need help in one point or another, right? We all kind of struggling at some point or another. And that's the reason. If we recognize this, instead of like, oh, this guy is sick, let's in Japan, if somebody's acting out crazy, once in a while, they look at him as like, like they all conformists in Japan. Like if somebody's acting out, they don't really react. And if somebody like steps out of line, they're like, oh, he's just having a crazy time. He just needs to get it out of his system. And like they literally accept them for the person. Like that's what I heard. I can't really claim, brothers and sisters, I'm not Japanese and I've never even been to Japan, but my Japanese friends told me this is the story. It's acceptable because if it's once in a while thing, we all go crazy once in a while, as long as it's only once in a while. Okay, what's the next story? Ukraine, we're sending more money to Ukraine. Why?
Yeah, we're sending more money, cash, so they can launder it and send it back while it still has value before the system changes over, the monetary system. And we're sending military hardware, weapons, and everything over there to what? Kill our brothers and our sisters.
Yeah, because that's how you stop the war. That's how you stop the war.
Meanwhile, they want to control the guns in Canada because, oh, no, you can't have guns out there. Guns kill people. But the car running over a bunch of people purposely, oh, no, you can't get rid of the cars, can we? Or what about all the knivings we see going on? Now the kids in high school, they're cutting each other up and stabbing each other. I said, oh, that's it. No more knives.
Pierre Poilievre brought it in a debate a few weeks ago, and he's like, well, you address the gun issues and all that stuff, but the most heinous crimes that happened in the last 24 hours are knife crimes. You're going to ban the knives too? Or is it, what is the origin of the violence here? The gun, the knife, or the person wielding it? The divide and conquer thing works either way. And let's go straight to divide and conquer. Continues to divide the world through things like Taiwan. Like what are the MPs doing in Taiwan?
Canadian members of parliament arrive in Taiwan in latest show of Western support. Like how divided up Canada, we should be supporting ourselves. We should pay a government to support Canadians. But no, they're sending our money around the world. They're showing support. We do this. We're going to help you over there. This is little Canada here. I don't know what this guy thinks we're in, but Canada, what we're really in is a pickle. The amount of debt that Canada has is staggering. The average Canadian is in the most amount of personal debt there's ever been in. And things look like they're going to be getting a little rough in the economy. Looks like what Canadians have their wealth in usually is in a property and registered retirement savings plans. And those two investments might be losing a lot of value very soon. I know they've already lost a little bit, but this could speed up even more. So what's going to happen is the government is going to have to reverse course, start lowering the interest rate, and even print more money. That'll create the problem that we already have now that they tried to stop by raising the interest rates. That's called inflation. And so the prices of everything that you really need to stay alive, like food, for example, that's going to keep going up. So that's what's called stagflation. That's the worst possible thing for a monetary system, economy, for the people, is a stagnant economy over a long period of time with persistent high inflation and a central bank that's pinned, can't do anything about it.
And increased spending. There's no plan actually in Chrystia Freeland's budget to actually decrease spending. Look, if you don't take my word for it,
Nothing free in Freeland, let me tell you.
And under Freeland's current plan, the spending will move higher in years to come. Her budget projects spending will ring at 555.7 billion in 2027-28. That's when Justin took on office. His budget, total expenses for the government were 280 billion. So double that by 2027.
Mark my words, on this lovely day, they are going to blow up the Canadian monetary system. The Canadian dollar won't be around.
Why doesn't it upset people? Like, this is our money, isn't it? This is our money. Like, this is yours and my money. This is our taxes. Why don't more people get not upset, but involved? Because I'm getting upset over this. It's not going to give you anything except your own pain, your own grief. But what can people do to change the process? Well, actually, most people are not even aware, because most people are brainwashed and indoctrinated. And the Zev, our guest from yesterday's show, which we're going to release sometime tomorrow, he was talking about all kind of programming that people receive through things like internet and other media sources nowadays, and oftentimes they're not even aware they're being programmed. But it's very important that you understand where information comes from. So Twitter is actually, what do you think about that story? Twitter has been marking different media sources as government funded, right? So, for example, Twitter removes NPR state affiliated designation, replaces it with a government funded label. I guess that's a win for NPR, but also BBC got one too.
Yeah, BBC, the British Broadcasting, that's over in England, and we have the same thing over here in Canada too. The CBC, Canadian Broadcasting, is basically an arm of the government, the Liberal and NDP government, who are in cahoots together right now. They're being the ones who are paid to control the way you think about things. Little bailouts of $41 million 1 year, plus another $12 million for that and this. And at the same time, all the people who work for these corporations, the CBC at the top, they're getting huge bonuses and salary increases. And we're paying for it, people. We're paying for it.
And again, that budget number that we just gave you, that 555 billion budget projected by 2027. I mean, this is directly from the CBC source, 2018-2019 annual report. That's not even 2023. In 2018-2019, they got 1 billion from Canadian government. And with the whole COVID thing, it's probably double that at this point. I don't have the number, unfortunately, for you. We have Tucker Carlson taking on NPR here. Let's listen to this video really, really quickly.
Give him hell, Tucker.
Host in Washington, D.C., a very popular one, deservedly so, and he joins us tonight to assess NPR. Now, you live in Washington, you report on it on the radio. Was there ever a question in your mind that this was state media?
Not
He's
at
talking
all.
about NPR.
Our mutual buddy Chris Plant calls them National Panhandler Radio, appropriately, NPR. And you know what's amazing about this? They're trying to prove that they're not state media, and they're relying on everyone who's funded by the state in order to make that defense. So Karine Jean-Pierre stands there at the White House press briefing and says NPR is so independent. She gives a Braveheart-style speech attesting to their independence. Do you think she would ever do that for Simon Atiba? Like, not in a million years.
No.
Not in a million years. Of course, it's for NPR. NPR cited Yoel Roth, the former head of censorship at Twitter, as a guy who said they shouldn't be labeled state-affiliated media. Yoel Roth and Twitter at the time were making millions of dollars from the federal government to censor the American public. These are all completely biased people. And one last big thing that I noticed about this, Tucker, they say in all of their defenses, well, only 1% of our funding, less than 1%, comes from the federal government. Even that is deception. Even that is a lie. NPR is a content organization. The 1,000 member stations that they send content to all pay fees to NPR. Guess where they get their money from? That's right, the federal, state, and local governments. As much as 23% of all of their funding comes from there. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, and here they are playing a shell game. And the only type of organization that plays that kind of deceptive shell game, not a news organization, one that is running a political operation on behalf of the government.
It's totally right. NPR is repulsive, but not quite as repulsive as its listeners, the most privileged people in the world demanding welfare from the rest of us. Vince Colonnese.
Something like CNN, the Clinton Criminal News Network. It doesn't stop, Big A. But when the average person finally wakes up and no, it becomes apparent that this is going on, they're gonna, well, and at the same time they see that their quality of life diminishing, so that they're getting affected at the personal level and they're not used to it. Or then there's going to be hell breaking loose. That's for sure.
Well, we have that it's happening in France, for example. You know, like the people last week, they attacked BlackRock. It's directly, well, the pension funds got affected. Now they increased the pension age, retirement age by 2 years. So people have to work 2 years longer, blah, 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 all that stuff. Well, what do you want? You live in a socialist country. And also, I don't know, Macron got reelected. There has been so many protests on Macron's watch, and he still continues to be reelected. There's something doesn't fit, Glenn. I mean, even if you're not of conspiratorial mind, you don't have to go far. I know the media that we described doesn't show us, like, you know, the legacy sources. They don't show you all those protests happening all over the world, specifically France. But you have internet at your tips of your fingers. Or you have your phone, just look up Telegram, etc., whatever alternative news source you have other than CNN or anything else, you know. And, okay, discernment is important, right? Some of those stories could be fake, I agree. But unless you open yourself up to an idea that there's more to the story than what to tell you, you're never going to see the real story. The real story, why did they go to Afghanistan in the first place, Glenn? Is it because somebody, you know, from the cave brought up, you know...
That was to control the world's opium supplies, okay? The opium was coming out of Afghanistan. They were going to Ankara, Turkey, where it was being fenced to the rest of the world by a branch of the military, by the way.
And there's a lot of stories, brothers and sisters, where like U.S. military soldiers say, well, on my tour of duty in Afghanistan, that's what I did. I guarded a poppy seed field. That was the biggest industry in Afghanistan for past 20 years. And, you know, that is associated with the Americans being there. And Taliban did this in less than 1 year. It's been nearly a year since the Taliban banned Afghan poppy farming used for the production of opiates. The impact of the move is set to hit global markets sometime soon, given the delay from the farm to customer. The danger about this, Glenn, I think, is things like drugs like fentanyl, like the synthetic drugs. They will prevail on the market, and those are really dangerous drugs as well. Like you can kill a horse with a tiny little drop type of thing. And that comes from China, apparently.
We can blame the other countries for exporting the drugs over here, but they would be, you know, over here if there were no users. There's something wrong with the populace in the Western culture. What is this preoccupation with wanting to take all these different drugs? Why do you want to check yourself out of life so much? Why is it so hard, and that you're making it even harder for you? You're going to take a substance that's known to do real harm to yourself, psychologically, physically, ruin you emotionally, financially, and yet, oh yeah, I got to try this one. What's going on?
People are not happy in life in general, and like, you've never been to the West Coast. I've been to Los Angeles maybe 2 years ago. At this point, I haven't been to San Francisco in a while, but place looks like a public toilet. It smells like a public toilet. There's human feces everywhere. There's squalor. There's homeless camps. There's garbage. It's just disgusting. Drugs right on the street. On main streets, things like it's. I'm not talking about like alleys and all that. Venice Beach, right on the beach, there was a homeless camp, and the whole place smelled like a toilet. In Hollywood, Hollywood Boulevard, it's awful, awful, awful. In San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, all those liberal states, by the way, too, and they prevailed with drugs, and it's just there is something there to be said for it. Glenn, what's up?
Yeah, and our tax dollars go to the government, and their way of treating this is to have injection sites where actually you can go there and get your fix. That's the solution. It's just going to create more of it, and it brings more people who have all these problems into a closer area of confinement with each other, and it seems to ruin all the people in that area that live there. It lowers the property values, and so you have to start over after that. Is this an agenda too?
Is it? Well, it is the sickness of the society, right? We're going back to the same conversation. We don't really have actual problems here. We create problems, Well, we do have a problem with people that are running this country. Because if we had strong leaders, there are steps you can take, as a leader to start addressing those things. People like, Rudy Giuliani at one point cleaned out New York City. There'll be people arguing how he actually did it, by which means. But when he came into the city, he did do a good job. He cleaned it up.
A big sweep. But sometimes it's tough love. That's what you have to do. By not doing anything, you're creating more of a problem. Like we said the other day, evil only prevails when good men do nothing. But if you're a good man, how can if you do nothing, how can you be a good man? So when you're a leader, a good leader, you have to make choices and decisions that could be a little tough, but you're doing it for the betterment of everybody.
Is it by design, though?
Well,
like the whole thing, is the Western civilization being destructed? Is it by design, or is it just a cycle?
No, and I put the responsibility, like I do myself, I put the responsibility back on the individual. Nobody made you take those drugs. Okay? You worked yourself towards that. So now you're paying for the consequences of the choices that you made. We still live in a fairly free society. You have to exercise these freedoms rightfully so. But then when it doesn't go your way because you've made wrong choices, you have to stop blaming everybody else. You have to take the responsibility to inward yourself, and that's how you're going to grow out of the problem that you created for yourself.
I'll argue, though, you made a statement that we live in a free society. I think the point of the show is actually to discern the free society from not free society.
Relatively free society.
We live in China, that, as far as I'm concerned, right? And there's proof for that. Proof is in the pudding, right? What's the story there, Glenn?
The CEO and the whole board at the Pierre Elliott Trudeau, there's that last name again, Foundation, they resign in one shot. Why did they resign in one shot? I mean, this is another scandal that's going to hit the government, Trudeau, people around him. It's just another. How is he going to deflect this one?
Well, Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation has been hit with a mass resignation of its board members, and President and CEO Pascal Fournier, who had been in the position for 5 years. In 2016, the charity received $200,000 from Zhang Bin, the political advisor to a Chinese government, and Niu Gensheng, a Chinese businessman and a philanthropist. Okay, Chinese businessman and philanthropist. That's just a guy who walks around and buys people's loyalty. Is that a Chinese philanthropist?
Sounds like there's something going on here. And you had here Mr. Trudeau. He seems to admire the Chinese form of governance, which is communism.
All right. Well, don't take our word for it. He's been very public about this.
there's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship.
That's all you need to know. You know, he says China the dictatorship has a horrible ethnical history. We know that, but it allows things to go a lot faster, and and you can achieve changes like carbon taxes and what are they called, passports and social credit systems and all this other stuff, because you have to submit to authority.
He's too much, really. Like, again, another scandal. This whole thing, well, it's being exposed. Usually we there's by exposing the truth. I'm an optimistic realist, but all the truth is realism, and it's not nice. It's not pleasant to learn the truth. Ignorance is bliss. But at the same time, I could see ourselves going into a new paradigm. It seems like a lot of stuff that was hidden is now breaking out one way or another, and they can't hide it anymore. And this is going to wake up our fellow brothers and sisters one at a time. It's going to happen. And this is where the true change is going to happen. And we're going to transition into a new and better and more equal form of life for everybody.
There, where everybody has a role, everybody has fulfillment. It's a renaissance, right? In a way. We're going to finish the show with not such a bright story, but it's important that you understand that you budget yourself correctly in the next few months. That with everything that's going on with carbon tax and all the wars and all the inflations and all the bank runs and everything else, one of the things that being directly impacted is the price of your produce.
Exactly. You said it, when you have to learn to budget yourself, because it's quite obvious that the government doesn't know how to budget itself. So we can't learn anything from them. What we could learn from them is what not to do. Just spend at will. It's like the government has a credit card on the people's account, and they're just blowing the money. And now they're blowing the money that's already we're in debt giving them.
Okay, we have a little video. Let's watch this little video.
Food banks, which say they've reached their breaking point.
We have seen an escalating number of individuals who have full-time employment. Their primary source of income is from employment, and that has gone from some 13 to 15% of food bank clients up to about 35% of client visits. So it doesn't, those on fixed income were already squeezed. They were already coming to the food bank. Now we're adding a whole new segment of individuals who just can't make ends meet.
Jim Stanford is an economist and director of the Center for Future Work, and he's done a lot of analysis on the price of food. Jim, it's good to talk to you again.
Thank you, David.
So food prices are sky high, but the Canada Food Price Report for 2023 came out last week saying they're going to go up even higher this year. An average family of four will spend over $1,000 more than last year. Is this justified? Is there gouging happening here by grocery chains? What's your take on these increases?
Yeah, food price inflation is now way worse than the overall problem of inflation. In fact, food prices are growing twice as fast as other consumer prices, over 10% over the last 12 months. And there's no sign they're slowing down either. In fact, in the last 3-month period, they've grown at an annualized rate of 13%. So that number of an extra $1,000 a year on groceries for a typical family might even be conservative. All kinds of factors.
I was just going to say that those are conservative numbers.
That's right. We know that.
Obviously, global developments, climate change shocks that we've seen in agriculture.
Oh yeah, the climate
and Putin.
change. Yeah, Putin. Yeah, hold on. Yeah.
Some of it, though, is clearly resulting from companies both at the retail stage and the food manufacturing stage taking advantage of this moment to fatten their own profit margins.
Oh yeah, that's exactly. That's the corporation's fault. That's the corporation's fault, not the carbon tax.
Has certainly worsened the food
not the oil prices
they're experiencing.
Well, what share of that is the problem? Do you know what I mean? Like if it's up over 10% for food, 13% for food, how much of that is excess profit taking in your view by retailers and processors, and how much of that is there's a war in Ukraine, there's droughts in agriculture?
Oh wow, he did brought it up. You're right. It didn't take that long.
Hard to disassemble it all the way along the supply chain. So think about it. Part of the problem starts in the energy industry. You know that agriculture is an energy-intensive industry. They pay a
Okay,
lot
so
for,
he's been honest about something.
which have translated into enormous profits in the energy industry. Then you've got the food processors themselves who've added their own profit margin. Transportation is another industry where companies have taken advantage of the supply shocks after the pandemic to fatten their own profit margins. And then you've got the supermarkets.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the price of a diesel in the trucks. Has nothing to do with that.
And they're staying high, even though Canadians are literally buying less groceries because they can't afford it. Yet the profits are still enormous. So at every step along the way, you've seen companies take advantage of the crisis.
Okay, I had enough of this guy. Really, what I think is the point is also what they're missing is, okay, now average person, like I care about what I eat. But even I sometimes notice that I'll come to like a fresh produce section, and I want to get my greens and my fruits and my vegetables. And I look at the prices, I'm like, wow, wee. Like this is way more, like twice the price. And it feels like New Zealand, right? Like New Zealand, by the way, groceries was so expensive. And you would think like that's a perfect agriculture country, but it's not. In Canada, we have a really good agriculture, apparently, but we can't produce our own. We have to import all that stuff, and that's why it's expensive or whatever the limitations are. The thing is, people that are conscious of the prices, what are they going to go to? They're going to go buy processed food. And processed food is bad for your health. And then people are getting sick, eating terrible stuff. And then what are they going to do? They're going to go to a doctor to get healed from the food they eat. And the doctor going to prescribe them more sickness in terms of pharmaceutical help. And they're going to get sicker and sicker. So I think that is the war on people's lives. This is like, okay, this is more of the Georgia Guidestones. Let's kill them by hook or by crook. And also another thing I heard recently, it's not a conspiracy that they are going to spray produce now with COVID vaccines. So your salad is going to have a COVID vaccine sprayed right on it, and the meats as well. So you no longer need to go get a booster or a shot. You can just ingest it with your food. That's worse than 1984. That's some Brave New World stuff, isn't it?
Well, they said they wanted to come out with an inhaled type of shot where you just, breathe it in. So this is another way of giving it to. But I don't know about that, mind you. I know at certain places the laws are very strict. They won't allow that. Like farming laws in France, not allowed any chemicals in the system. We have pretty strong laws in Canada, too. Our food quality is up amongst the best in the world, so hopefully it stays that way.
But you got to watch what you eat. Now, there'll be crickets in your chips or something like this.
You shouldn't be eating chips. People complaining about the price of produce and everything, but you see it. People are still lining up outside the junk food restaurants in their cars. I mean, they're full. They're scoring.
There's a reason. Like that's always those are the commodities that make the money during the tough times, isn't it? The fast food and all that stuff.
Alcohol,
but fast food isn't cheap. Fast food nowadays is expensive as well. Like if you go to the fast food restaurant like Wendy's, for example, and you don't have a coupon, you're still gonna spend like $15 for a meal. I mean, you can go buy a whole chicken for $15 at the Prices store, Metro. That chicken could feed a family of 4. Well, maybe not chicken by itself, but still, maybe like for $30 you can buy some other produce, and like some rice and whatever, and you can feed a family of 4.
Or you could feed one G-man, because I eat the whole chicken myself.
You eat the whole chicken in one shot?
Yeah.
You're a monster.
Yeah, it's protein.
That's protein. That's good protein. Would you? What else would you eat with that chicken?
Usually like some vegetables.
And that's a good dietary advice. Would you eat any carbs beside vegetables?
Well, no, because that's you're getting the fat from the chicken too. So I wouldn't have the carbs with that. That's with another meal.
Would you eat chicken skin?
Not all of it, no.
Just the crunchy parts.
Oh, that barbecue chicken, actually, that's no good for you. Right?
No, it's horrible. Yeah,
yeah,
it's carcinogens.
Yeah, it tastes good. It's
Tastes
funny,
good.
eh? Oh, that's the devil's temptations. All the stuff that tastes good, really, really good, is no good for you.
None of it. No. As a matter of fact, like, okay, that's a healthy advice. Bitter stuff, including coffee once in a while, is actually healthy for you. Anything like any kind of bitter roots are really good for you in endocrine system, you know. So like any kind of radishes, and you can buy radish at the store now raw and eat it. That's really, really good for your health. And anyway, it's getting warmer, so you can get onto your raw diets again. It's easier for your body to process it in the summer because you no longer need heat to maintain your body's heat in the cold weather in Canada. Any last words, Glenn?
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to pass by there affecting Canadians. Retirement savings. Half of Canadians are unprepared. This is what they're saying now. What's it going to be like in 2, 3, 4 years from now when you have this super inflation setting in and eating away more and more at people's disposable income just to maintain where they are now?
Don't be scared, brothers and sisters. That's why you're listening to the show, because you're going to get prepared. You're going to get smarter with your health. You're going to get smarter with your discipline. You're going to get smarter with your money. And on this note, brothers and sisters, we're going to let you go, and we'll see you on the next one.